Hello, welcome to Board Game Bonkers. I'm Jay Sears, and today we're going to take a look at the top 10 board games from Board Game Geeks 3001 to 6000, in my opinion. Now, before getting to that list, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you're new and you've just discovered this and you haven't subscribed yet. And please consider giving the video a like at the end if you enjoy it. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm going to get up my rating on Board Game Geek. Please don't get hung up too much in that range. Just because I give something a low rating doesn't mean I think it's a bad game. I like all these games at the time I was playing. Some of them I've actually gotten rid of since I've compiled this list, and some of them I still have in my collection. So just because I give something a 5 doesn't mean, or a 5.5 doesn't mean I think it's bad. That's average. I think that's fine. And there's some better games on this list than others. And also, please keep in mind as well, I have children, so some of these games I bought as a family type of game to get them involved in gaming. So keep that in mind as we go through this list. Now, the games at the top half, from 1 to 5, I much prefer, and I think are good, solid games, and ones I still have in my collection, whereas the ones low on the list, I've gotten rid of a lot of them, and I'll tell you my reasons why in just a minute, but I think they're worth checking out nevertheless. And these are my top 10 games from Board Game Geeks, top 3001 to 6000. Starting off with our number 10. And this is the Golden Ticket game. And this certainly has a Christmas theme. And essentially what you're doing is worker placement. So you're just placing your workers out into the different placement spots and carrying out the action on that spot. It's very light and certainly kid friendly and family weight, and you're trying to collect these bars of chocolate, which look amazing, by the way, and I really like that about the game. It looks so realistic, the chocolate, and that's a great thing. You're trying to find the golden tickets. Now there's an element of luck there, because obviously you don't know which bars of chocolate have the golden ticket in them, and you're supposed to mix them up. And what you've got is cards as well, a little bit of deck building. Clicking these cards, you'll be playing a card to then move a space to another space, and you'll be able to combine cards to give you a combo, which might give you extra bars of chocolate to collect, for example. Or it might let you move further along the board. It's not board, it's tiles. More than just one adjacent spot. It might let you move across to one side to the other, for example. So I quite like that in terms of the options you've got, and it's quite fun in the cards because some of them are gum. You've got all different types of Wonka bars, etc. I really like that, and it's brought into the theme, and certainly this feels like Willy Wonka, the game, but obviously they can't call it that, which is why it's called the Golden Ticket. And the fun bit is at the end, you're opening the chocolate bars and they just slide out, they look amazing, and then you're seeing you've got the Golden Ticket. It's super fun for the kids, but it is a little bit lucky because you could collect 20 chocolate bars, and they might collect 5, and they might get 2 golden tickets, you might only get 1. So there's that luck element to it. And it's very simple in the worker placement because you just place your people there and then you carry out the actions. It's really super simple. There's nothing complicated about this game except the cards. So with the cards, as you're working out, well, which cards do I want, because I want a combo, but also I need to keep some cards in my hand. I need to play maybe 1 or 2 to move X amount of spaces, but I want to keep this, and hopefully I'll draw up to the card I need. So there's a bit of luck there, but also a little bit of kind of strategy in that as well, but there's more luck than strategy. But I liked it. I thought it was fun, and there's a game I don't have in the collection anymore because I think it's overstayed its welcome. We played it a lot, but I definitely recommend it to get a hold of it for a nice light family type game. That is simple and straightforward, but it is enjoyable, especially at Christmas time. So let's move in to my number 9 then, and this is Nanga Parbat. And this was a game that I found and I thought, okay, that looks interesting. I like the theme with a Sherpa and you're going up the mountain. What you're essentially trying to do is set up your camp, which then allows the tourists to visit. And also you're then collecting or capturing cattle and animals, which you'll then sell at the market, which will give you victory points. So essentially you get your points from that, as well as points for putting up your camp, which are these little tents you'll be placing out on the board. And there is a bit of territory control because you can block your opponents when you set up there. Your opponent can't go there, which means you have to go somewhere else. So there's a little bit of territory control in terms of which parts of the region on this mountain you're going to. Try and set up camp and then capture the animals, which then you'll sell at the market to give you points. So 2 main ways to get points. And while the initial theme I really like, it comes through, I felt it was quite simplistic, and perhaps too simplistic for what I was looking for. It's a 2-player only game, but I like the fact that, okay, I can go here, I can block my opponent. Okay, my opponent now can only go here because I've kind of blocked this route, and I'm now setting up camp in these spaces. So I kind of like that. Also, I need to get the catched animals because I need to sell them at the market. So that was okay. I quite liked that, but it did feel a little bit samey after you're playing it a number of times. And it's one of those games, once you play it kind of 3 or 4 times, it's really enjoyable. But once you kind of discover all the strategies, not there's very much, it kind of feels a bit, okay, we're kind of doing the same thing over and over. And I suppose it depends who you're playing with as well. And I think if you varied the opponent you're playing with, it might make it more interesting each time you play it. But from our experience, we found that it was a game that was enjoyable the first few plays. I really did like it. And then my kind of thought got to, right, this is getting a little bit too samey every single time we play, so perhaps we should look at other alternative 2-player games. But it's one I recommend getting and trying out, and you shouldn't kind of sniff up the chance of looking at it just because we've had that experience. Like I say, we really enjoyed it the first few times we played it, and I still would recommend checking it out. So let's move in to my number 8 now, and this is the Alpha. And this certainly is a very light game, certainly aimed towards families. And this is about a pack of wolves, and you're going scavenging, and you're obviously scavenging these animals. And what happens is you will go to these areas and you'll be placing your wolves out, and you're trying to get the majority, which then allows you to roll and then see whether you've been successful and causing damage to the animal, which then gives you the food that you need to go up this track. And essentially you're trying to get to the track at the very end that wins. Now, the artwork is stunning in this. I thought this was great. I loved the idea of it. I liked the theme. I thought it was great. What I did notice though after a while is some of the places, one particular animal you can go to, you don't have to use all the tiles, you can actually take a couple of them out, and you will do depending on player count. But one of the animals is that when you go there, if you roll and you roll the right numbers, you can go up that track a lot, but there is a risk. The risk is you can lose your wolves because they get attacked by the animals themselves and you've been unsuccessful. So you can lose wolves. The less amount of wolves you've got, the harder it is to try and win the territory because you're going by majority in that area for that animal. Who's got majority will roll to try and get the food, which will get you up the track. So you've got to be careful where you're placing your wolves. And I really liked that. I thought that was great in those tough decisions. Where do I go? Do I go here? But opponent might go there, they might go there. Now it is a minimum of 3 players, this game, 3 to 6 I believe it is. And it works better with a higher player count. There's more tension in that territory. Which animal do I go for? And sometimes you're trying to outsmart your opponent. I'll place one there, but I've got my big wolf, which counts as 2. Maybe I'll keep that to the end, or perhaps I should psychologically place it out first. So they think I'm going for that animal, and they might keep away from it. But if they don't, maybe I can then go here and exploit that. So I like that tough decisions in this, and the artwork was great. I like this kind of race to try and get as much food as possible. And the downside was it's very lucky because you're rolling a bunch of dice. And if you're okay with that, you might really love this. And the first few times I played this, I really enjoyed it. But then I felt the feeling of this is all based on luck. 90% of it is, if you roll well, you will be highly successful. And like I said, if you got that particular animal, where you roll really well, you can get a lot of food that gets you right up the track really quickly. And we played games where 3 times in a row I was successful, and I got up 3/4 way up the track. I was so far in front it was impossible for anyone else to catch up. Of course, if they went to that same spot I was at, and if they rolled badly, well then I'm winning and I'm going to be successful in the game. And that's what happened a couple of times. Very lucky. And if you're okay with that, of course you can just take that animal out and use the other animals, which will then allow you to kind of balance it out a bit more. But I liked it the time I played it, and I thought it was enjoyable. I just felt it was very, very lucky, which is why I actually took it out of my collection in the end, because I was frustrated with the amount of die rolling. And I think this is a game I'd love to see a second edition, and something a little bit different than just rolling dice all the time. But anyway, let's move in to my next one, and this is my number 7. Is it my number 7? 10, 9, 8, 7 it is. So my number 7 is Linky. Linky is a party-style quiz trivia game. So in Linky, you've got these cards. What you'll be doing is taking a card, and then you'll be asking your opponent a question. But The twist is there are actually several questions. You get to find the link to all those questions. It gives you the final answer to what you're looking for that will win you the card. And once you win that card, you're trying to spell out Linky. Now, this is great if you're good at quizzes. I'm not particularly great, but hey, I still enjoy it. And I think this is a fun game. It's what a game I've still got in my collection. Now, sure, the questions can go out of date, just like the old Trivial Pursuit did. But to me, I think this is better than Trivial Pursuit because I've got a stupid die I'm rolling and hoping to get the right space. I'm just drawing a card and using my knowledge to try and get the link. And sometimes you only need 2 out of the 4 questions to get correctly to guess the link, which gives you the answer you need. So I like that sometimes you don't need all the questions correctly. And I think it's clever how they've done this. And I really enjoy it. And there's a game that you bring out when you've got a group of friends, perhaps you're having a few drinks, perhaps at Christmas time. I think this is that type of game, and that's why I still got it in my collection. Let's now move in to my number 6, and this is Ghostal. Now, Ghostal I still have in my collection, and I enjoy it. And I've only got one slight negative point to make in this, and I'll say that now, and that's the time it can take to play. So all you do is half the amount of cards that you use, and therefore it cuts down the time by half, and that makes a big difference to the game. Gameplay is super simple. You've got these guests that are coming to visit your haunted hotel, and you're going to scare them away, which will eventually give you points. And you've got these cards you can collect that give you different abilities that help you scare away the guests, give you a few other cool little abilities that let you do different things. And there's a bit of area majority on the cards, which will give you points. You get points for being second and third as well, and try and get up this track as many points as possible. I really like that the artwork is coolness with the different people, guests you're trying to scare away, like the ghost figures. They're coming from the attic, they're going on to the whichever card you're placing them on. There's a bit of territory control there. I think it's really cool how they deliver this family weight type of game, and it isn't too scary for children as well. It's nice and fun and fluffy. And I like it's got a bit of choice with the cards, because when you collect the cards, there's 2 different types. You're looking at, right, do I want this type of card or do I want that type of card? And like that choice and decision. But it's going to cost you, you're going to lose points if you take a card. So you're working out, okay, how many points do I want to lose to get a card, but it's also going to benefit me, so I need to weigh that up. I really like that choice and decision space. But I think that perhaps the time length for this is too long for what it is, which is why I have to amount of guest cards, and that is a sweet spot for us. So I really like the theme of this. I like the feel of it, and I think it definitely plays best with 4 players. And I definitely feel that they've got a good balance, because there's some dice you've got to roll, because that's essentially how you're going to work out the control you've got on that card to scare away that guest. And I think that works well, because even if you roll badly, you're not just, you can move to another guest and perhaps try there, and that may be an easier guest to scare away than the one you're currently on. So I like that choice and decision space, and your dice stays there as well, which I think is great, but it goes down by 1 pip every single round, so you're going to weigh that up as well. So I think there's a good package overall, and I think they've done a good job. So I definitely recommend. It's one I've got in my collection, I still have it, and now and again I bring it out for a family bit of fun. That's Ghostal. So let's now move in to my number 5, and this is Back to the Future Dice Through Time. There's 2 Back to the Futures. I haven't played the other one, it's meant to be the better one. This one I enjoy. So essentially what you're doing is you're trying to go through these timelines, and there's different timelines you go through. You're trying to get the items to take them back to the correct timeline. That's what you're doing. You've got annoying Biff as well to compete with. And it is a little bit frustrating. You've got to work together. You've got dice you're rolling. You've got different, slightly different abilities. You're rolling your dice, and you can also leave dice for others, what's called a ripple effect, for others to use, which is quite clever. But sometimes we found that we don't actually use that a lot. We relied heavily on our own dice, or we would join forces and go to the same timeline to help one another out to kind of try and get those items and take them back. So there are symbols on the dice which you're trying to match to then get the items and take them back to the timeline. And it's a lot tougher than you think as well, because you've got a restricted time on how you're going to do that. And it's not a live timer, real timer, so you don't have to worry about that. You can take your time playing the game. But I like it, they've kept it quite tough and challenging. We are still yet to try and defeat it, despite playing it several times, and we've gotten very close to it, but you can also you can reduce the difficulty as well, and we tend to do that to make it much more winnable. But we've had it on hard quite a few times when we've been playing this, and it is tough on the more difficult level, but you can change that. I think it's a good package overall. I've really enjoyed it, and I did do a review of it previously on the different videos. You can check that out. But it's one I recommend if you want a family type way of game. It's still difficult, a bit of crunchiness in the choice and decisions you make. Do I go up here because we need to get rid of Biff, but also we need to get rid of these other tokens that we've got. I can't remember what they're called, but if you get too much of a certain type of token, then you lose the game. So you're trying to get rid of them as well. So it's tough decisions in this game. So let's move in to my number 4 then, and this is the key, the theft at the Cliff Rock Villa. And this is a kind of detective type of game, certainly deduction. And what you're trying to do is you've got a bunch of these cards laid out on the table, and you're trying to scramble and get these cards. It's all in real time, and you're trying to solve the cases as quickly as possible. There's 3 cases. You've got this board. You've been marking off who did it, at what time, what weapon, how did they escape, and you do that for each 3 of them that you've got. And every person has got the same board. You're trying to figure it out as quickly as you can before the others, and you'll be putting this key through this board to see whether you're correct or not from the code that you've acquired. So it's quite simple. What we did find was you scramble for the cards, and you're trying to do it with the minimal amount of cards as possible. Now, we did find that the CCTV cards were pretty much useless, so we just kind of take them out of the game, but the other ones do work. There's a little bit confusing for younger players because you've essentially got 3 cases you're solving, so you've got a lot of cards, and it can be overwhelming about, okay, I need to deduce this at this time, happened at this time, which means it can't be that and it has to be this. So it can be quite thinky, much more thinky than I thought. And there's actually a game, believe it or not, actually I've still got in the collection, but one we'll be getting rid of because I think there are other deduction games that we enjoy more. But I still think at the time we played this as a family, we actually had fun and we did enjoy it. The first 2 times I actually loved it. So it just shows that feeling. But it did feel, after we played it a couple of times, that it was like, okay, it's just the same cases all the time. And that wasn't as exciting. So I suppose it depends. If you've got different groups playing it, I think this is a game you'll get a lot of plays out of. But if it's the same group, I think it might feel a little bit samey after a couple of plays. But nevertheless, it's worth checking out the key. Let's now move in to my number 3, and this is Kids Chronicles, A Quest for the Moonstones. It's a game I picked up for my daughter. And if you're familiar with the Chronicles of Crime series, this is used exactly the same system. The only difference is you're trying to find these gems. I think there are 5 gems. So it's a bit of a chronologue, almost some kind of adventure. I wouldn't say it's a campaign, but it's more of an adventure. So you're trying to find these gemstones. You're scanning your phone with a QR code and a card, and then it'll give you a bit of information. Obviously, the stories here are much more kids friendly and much more streamlined and much simpler. But my daughter did find some of them challenging and trying to decipher the information. I need a little bit of support. But for around 75 to 8% of the game, she managed to do it on her own, and she was 11 at the time, so it gives you a bit of an idea. But she loved it. She really did enjoy it. And that's just why it's really high up on the list, because she was so engaged throughout the whole process. It took about 3 hours for her to complete it all. And it's one I would highly recommend. I've kept it because when my son's a bit older, he'll be doing the same thing. So it's certainly, I think that we got a lot more enjoyment out of this than we did Chronicles of Crime. This just seemed to fit the bill really well for my daughter. So it's one I'd highly recommend. The artwork is stunning. I think it looks absolutely great. And you've got this owl card that helps you. You've constantly got it. It helps you all the way through the game if you get stuck. So I like that. They've got that bit of support and assistance for the children. But definitely one I recommend for kids. Highly recommend it. Let's move in to my number 2 then. And this is Death Valley. This is a wallet game. And what I love about this, I think they've done a fine job, with so limited number of cards, is you will be drawing cards, you'll be putting them into your journey, and then you've got a scrapbook. So what you're trying to do is move cards from your journey into your scrapbook. Now the problem is you get points from what's in your journey, but you don't get points from what's in your scrapbook. But you can only use the abilities and activate the abilities if the card is in your scrapbook. So you can figure out, okay, when do I move it from a journey into my scrapbook? But also you get to keep in mind is when you draw cards, you can draw as many as you want. if you go bust by having up to 3 of the same type of symbol that's already in your journey, then you go bust. Which means that you will get rid of all those cards in your journeys, which are points, remember, and just keep one of the cards. So you're going to be careful with that, but I like that push your luck as well. And I like that choice and decision of when do I move a card down in the scrapbook, because the ability is going to trigger additional points for me. It might say, for example, if you have 2 adjacent mountains, then you'll get double the points, for example. So you're figuring out which cards do I move down and which cards do I keep up on my journey. When do I draw cards and stop drawing cards because I don't want to go bust? So I like that push your luck element as well. And I think for such a small, compact game, it has actually got quite a bit of crunch to it. I think they've done a fab job to this, and the artwork looks lovely as well. Super streamlined in how they've done it, and I think it's a great game. I really highly recommend it. It's a game I've got and I will probably always keep. So let's move in to my number 1 then, and this is Tiny Epic's Galaxies Blast Off, and particularly the Blast Off one. I think the artwork's a little bit better in this one than Tiny Epic Galaxies, and I just love this game. It's such a compact game. This, for me, is the best Tiny Epic games around. I just love the spaceships. I love going out, exploring the planets, triggering the ability that they've got. I terraform the planet. And when I've got that planet, I've terraformed it, then I'm going to put it down into my player board and slide it underneath, which means I'll then see the ability. I'll be able to use that ability. I love that when you roll the dice, you've got different icons. You'll be working out how you utilize those icons. Okay, do I want to use the abilities on my board? Do I want to go and explore planets? Do I want to terraform planets? I really like that. You've got 2 different resources. You've got a follow-up action as well. You can follow other players and what they're doing, but it costs you a resource. And you can upgrade your abilities as well. How many ships I go out, what I'm in the movement, what points I can get. So I love that. I love the choice and options you've got. And the fact it plays in about an hour and a half, I think is fab, and I think it looks stunning as well. I really do enjoy this for such a small package, and I've had fun every time I've played this. Sure, there's a bit of luck because you're rolling dice, but also there's a place where you can manipulate the dice as well. So I like that. And you're not too restricted. Sometimes there's always some choice, some option you've got. It's just how you work around that and how you strategize around it. So I like that, and I think they've done a fab job. And this still, to me, is the best Tiny Epic games out there. That's why it's my number 1 on this list. So that brings us to the end. Let me know in the comments down below what would be in your top 10 and any particular games on this list that you would like to check out and fancy playing yourself. And please do consider giving this video a like, and please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. My name's Jay Sears. Until next time, take care.
This is Bonkers.